Hey, hey, hey. All right, let's see. All right, let me tag everybody. Hey, y'all, how are you? Happy Tuesday. Hope and pray everybody is well. I'm tagging everybody who may be able to join me, and if not, that's okay too. We're still gonna go forth. Hey, Danta. Hey, Karen. Hey, Deborah. Were y'all waiting? Y'all ready? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Look at y'all coming on in the room. Hey, y'all. Happy Tuesday. All right, there we go. I'm waving at Donna. How y'all doing? Y'all feeling good? All right. Good morning to those of you in the central the Central Standard Time time zone, and good afternoon to my Eastern people. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Tuesday thus far. Hope you were able to recoup and get in the groove today on your day, whatever that may have encompassed or entail. So, hey, Ina, how are you? Good deal. I'm glad to see y'all. All right, so I'm gonna get into it. I don't want to hold you guys long because many of you may either be on your lunch breaks or you may be headed into a lunch break shortly. But I did want to go ahead and just hop into it today. Hey, Kathy, how are you? Good to see you today. Thank you guys for tuning in for this lunchtime chat and accountability session. So let me hear it. How many of you, by show of a thumbs up or a heart, how many of you have done today's task, and what did you think about it? I want to get some feedback from you guys. We're talking about values clarification today, but then there was also an assessment that I found that I wanted you guys to take so that we could talk about what our tendencies are. And there is an author, I believe she's a coach, and she is an influencer, and she talked a lot about the four tendencies, and I thought it was so cool. I did the assessment or the quiz. I hope that you guys were able to do the quiz as well, and we're going to talk about those four tendencies and how all of that connects and combines with the values clarification task for today. Great. Ina says me. It was great. The assessment was awesome. Wasn't it cool? I actually went through and I went through and I did the assessment from the perspective of everybody, right? I'll tell you what mine is in just a second, but I wanted to do it from the perspective of all four tendencies so that I could get all four results and kind of look over them and see what it was really all about, and try to give you a little bit more clarity as well about your tendency. What I loved about the assessment or the quiz was that she not only gave you what your tendencies were and what behaviors were associated with that tendency, but she also gave you a strategy at the end that's going to help you be able to understand what is going to work for you. Good afternoon, Kyla. Good to see you. what's going to work for you in moving forward. Okay, so I love that. I'm all about strategy, so it was really good stuff. And so Deborah says the assessment was very revealing. I was very surprised, yet it makes sense. Good. I'm glad it makes sense to you, and that you can identify with it. I was really impressed by it personally. I was like, wow. And I ended up calling a friend of mine to tell her about my assessment and my results and how much awareness it brought to me about my habits and my tendencies. And so yeah, it's pretty interesting. So yeah, Donna, I think some people were struggling with their email this morning. Okay, you said you missed it in the email. Okay. So yeah, go back and read the email. It's towards the end. It says click here to take the quiz. So yeah, you still have time, and you can always go back and respond. So for those of you who have taken the quiz, tell me where you are. Are you an obliger? Are you an upholder? Are you a questioner? Or are you a rebel? Okay, let us know where you are. I'm curious about it, and we're going to talk about it in just a second. But for today, you guys, the purpose of, okay, check your, I think Ina and Karen said that they were having to check their promotion section in their Gmail email. So check your promotion section. Generally, like influencers or authors, coaches, people who send out frequent emails or what have you, it goes to the promotions section. So check your promotions, Donna, and see if it went over there. Okay, so let's talk about it. Okay, Deborah says she's a rebel. Woo-hoo-hoo. Interesting. We're gonna talk about that. Kathy says she's a questioner. Okay, you guys, I'm gonna type mine in here. I'm gonna type mine in here for you, so you'll see which one I am. So you'll know. Alrighty. So we got a questioner. We have a rebel. What else do we have? Alright. Okay. Alright, I put mine in. Alrighty. Okay, so and that might shock you guys, but it didn't shock me at all. All right, good deal. So as far as it pertains to your values clarification, one of the things that is important for us to know about, getting clarity about our values is that it's really significant in our overall well-being and who we are as far as our identity is concerned. When you don't stand for something, right? There's a saying, when you don't stand for something, you fall for anything, right? And so this was just an opportunity to help us get some awareness about what our core values are, and if we are really and truly living up to our values on a day-to-day basis. And when you lack clarity in your core values, you often lack clarity in who you are, And so today's task is designed to help you gain clarity about what's important and what's not important. Okay, what's important to you and you only, and what's not important to you. All right. And so a lot of times when you think about, am I living up to my core values, and am I living up to that, you can assess whether or not you are living up to that by simply asking yourself, how has my mood been? Have I been really stressed and anxious? Am I easily irritated? Do I struggle with depression? Do I lack focus? So these are all indicators that something may not be lining up with your soul and your core. All right. So it's really important that we take an opportunity to bring some awareness to that and really think about it. Okay. All right. Ina says she's a questioner. Ina, I'm just joking. Good deal. Good deal. Okay. So, I want you guys, let's go over the questions really quickly. Hey, Tyra, how are you? Let's go over the questions that we ask, and I want you guys to give me a little bit of feedback about that, okay? So when you think about your core values, many of us go back to those values that were instilled in us. Obliger, Tyra, I guessed it. I guessed it for you. I guessed it for you. Because I was like, Tyra, yesterday when you said, oh, I need to be held accountable. Yeah, I feel you. I'm there with you. So, but yeah, so that when you think about your core values, most of the time your core values didn't just surface. Many of us have core values that came about because of what was instilled in us as children in our childhood. Okay, so I want you guys to tell me just one or two core values that you have or that you had as a child growing up, and talk a little bit about where that came from. I'll share with you about me. I For the first few years of my life, I remember going to church all the time. Like I mean, even as a small child, I remember going to church. And even though my mom tells me now, as we got older, that she wasn't exactly, did not have a relationship with God, even though she knew that sending her children to church or even eventually going with us to church was important. It was just something that we did. So attending church, establishing Christian values, believing in God was instilled in me very early. So I have a very firm core belief in God and having a relationship with God and Christianity. Okay. And so that's very important to me. It's something that has been instilled in me as a child, and I've taken with me over time. I even remember at the age of 12 having an experience with the Holy Spirit at the age of 12, even though in the Baptist faith that's not always talked about or it's not always shared. So it just lets me know that God was even there with me then, and that the Holy Spirit has always been with me, and God has always been with me, even since I was a child. So our core values a lot of times is instilled in us from a child. Okay. Now sometimes we take that on over with us, and then sometimes we don't. Sometimes we lose, or we because certain things were instilled in us. Sometimes we find ourselves just kind of rejecting or rebelling or resisting some of those core values. I know people who said, I had to go to church all the time, so now I don't go to church because I always had to do it and I was in church all the time. Well, that tells me that maybe it's not a core value for them, and it seemed more like an obligation, or more like a more of a demand, and it wasn't taught to be. You weren't necessarily taught to be in relationship. So it doesn't matter where you are. It's just important for you to be aware of where you are. Okay. Tyra says, respect my elders. Yes, that was something that was instilled in me as well. Respect and family first. Good, Ina. I was listening this morning to a teaching that I think she calls herself an empowerment specialist. I was listening, and it was sent to me by a good friend of mine, and I was listening to her teaching, and she talked about how secrets can keep you stagnant. And that stood out for me. But one of the things that I remember that was taught and instilled in me as a child was that you keep family secrets. What happens in the family stays in the family, right? And that was something that was taught, but she put a spin on that thing that really made me just leap in my spirit, because that is a core value that many of us have had from childhood, but it's also a value that's keeping us stuck and stagnant, and hindering us from being able to grow and develop in our purpose. And so I loved her teaching on that. I may share it in the group because it really just resonated with me wholeheartedly. Okay, so Kathy says education, faith, and self-sacrifice. Awesome. Okay. Hey Adrian, how are you? Respect. So these are all core values, and if you're not sure about what your core values are, or not sure of excuse me, how to explain it or express it, I did put a list of core values in the email that you can download and you can look at as well. If you like, I'll also post that in the group, so that you guys can download it from there as well. Sometimes Google Drive can be a little iffy, so hopefully you guys were able to download that, and at least look at some of the core values that were there, so that you can go back and answer these questions. All right, the second question was, when making important life decisions, what parts of life do you consider? Do you consider work? Do you consider family? Do you consider your personal growth? What goes into your decision making when you're thinking about important life decisions? I want to hear more back from you guys. Okay, so Deborah says service to others, optimism, and calmness. So Deborah values peace. And I am with you all the way, Deborah. I'm with you all the way. So I value peace as well. It's probably at the top, one of the top 3 of my core values. I value peace, and so a lot of times, you guys, when you go through life situations and when you go through life changes, right, the older you get, right, a lot of times your values are going to change. Sometimes some of those core values are going to stay with you, but sometimes they change, right? When I was in my 20s, peace wasn't that big of a deal. Now that I'm in my, I'm just embarking into 40, honey, peace is important to me. So that is so important to me now. So it shifted over time. When I was in my 20s, I was just kind of I was married at the beginning, and then towards the end, I learned to value peace because all hell broke loose after my divorce. But even then, I was just, now I'm just at a place where I really do value peace. So good deal. All right, y'all. All right, Adrian says, okay, wait, Tyra says personal and spiritual growth. Great. Adrian says peace and self-love. Great. Donna says you can't put a price tag on it. You cannot put a price tag on peace. There's just something about it, right? Ina says, sorry, I had someone at my desk. Did you already do the top 5? No, I haven't. I haven't gotten to that point yet, but you can go ahead and answer your top 5. All right. Karen says, my family is primary when making decisions. Great. And a lot of times when you have family, you think about, particularly when you have a husband and children, you do have to think about your family before you make certain life decisions. I am single, and so even though I have my mom and my dad and my brother to think about, I'm less likely to put my decision making based off of them. Sometimes I do, particularly when it came to my dad's health. I did think about his health, and that helped me make some life decisions at that time. Now that he's in a better place, I'm starting to veer more towards getting back to focusing on my own personal development and my own personal beliefs and desires. So it's different for everybody. Okay, and Karen says she's an obliger. All right. I pray for guidance and direction. Amen. I'm with you. Donna says, peace by any means necessary. Amen. We can tell Donna values peace, honey. All right. Kyla says, Christian and marital values. Great. Now, Kyla, I can see that for Kyla, not only because Kyla and I are cousins, so we grew up together, but Kyla, I know, is a devoted Christian. My great aunt was a devoted Christian, and so Kyla was raised in the church. But I also know that Kyla is now engaged to be married on next year. So now I know why marital values are extremely important to her. Why? Because she's about to be a wife. So she's preparing herself for that, right? So good deal, Kyla. Family and work. Tell me a little bit more about that, Donna. Why is it that I know family, but why does work? Why do you consider work when it comes to certain life decisions? And there's a reason why I'm asking that. All right. Ina says when making decisions, family comes first, then personal. Good, Ina. Good deal. All right. And Deborah says, yes, peace is very important to me. I'm with you, girl. I am with you. All right. So, good deal. I got me some tea today, y'all, so I won't be talking. My sinuses won't be making me talk really like you can't hardly hear me, like I got laryngitis or something. But anyway, all right. So number 3 was list your top 5. You don't have to list all 5, but it sounds like you guys are really really clear about what your top 5 are. So good deal with that. All right. Kathy says family, finances, personal. Good deal. And so the significance in that particular exercise and those questions was it says smile. It says smile. I like t-shirts with like different sayings on them. So on Thursday, I'm going to wear my choose to be happy, because we're going to be talking about happiness. But, hey, Lanisha. All right. Tyra says freedom. Amen. Freedom. That's good. All right. No problem, Lanisha. I appreciate you for coming. All right. Donna says, well, because I work there. Because I work there are certain things I have to consider in the event I'm planning to do something on a work day. Okay. So yeah, many of us, we have to consider our jobs and what we do, and whether or not we're able to do some of the things that we have a desire to do. And so it's a matter of choice. It's a matter of, decision making. And a lot of times we have to think about, our work, even when we have to consider taking time off or taking a vacation, we still have to think about work. A lot of times we have to think about who are we going to get to cover us, who's going to fill in, or who can I trust to leave certain responsibilities with. The good thing about being able to work for myself is I'm able to take my job wherever I go. And so that's a blessing in and of itself. However, not everybody's there. That may be a goal that we're working towards. And so with that being stated, when you think about your core values and you think about where you are in your core values, I want you to take an opportunity to think about your task that we did on yesterday. When you did those tasks, were they in alignment with your core values? Were they in alignment? The purpose of intentional living, you guys, is that we can learn to put God first, yourself second, and then everything else after that. Now, a lot of times we feel like that's not fair. I shouldn't put myself ahead of people. I shouldn't put myself ahead of my family. I shouldn't put myself ahead of my husband or my children. And that's not necessarily what I mean by that. What I mean by that is making sure that you're good, that you are mentally, spiritually, physically healthy, that you are healed, that you are whole, so that you can be your best self for those other things. So that when you go to work, you can be productive. So that when you are engaging with your family and your husband and the people that you love, you're present, that you are enjoying the experience, that you're not just there, you're not just existing, but you're actually living in the moment, and that you are leading a fulfilling and happy life. When you are happy with who you are, when you are happy with where you are in life, when you feel that your life has purpose, you are more likely to be able to be a more effective, to be a better mother, to be a better sister, to be a better wife, to be a better friend, to be a better employee or employer to other people. Okay, and so that's what the significance of this particular exercise was for today. Okay, Ina says her top 5 are family, love, freedom, morals, and success. I see all of that with you. I see all of that, particularly family first, and that is a core value that you even share in your business. So that's good, Ina. Great. Okay, so Karen says my top 5 values are faith, family, love, positivity, and loyalty. I see that with you as well, Karen. Good deal. And Donna says if we don't take care of ourselves, we won't be able to help others. And that's the significance of that. So you got to go back to your core. And I talk about that even with the Kingdom Destinypreneurs in the entrepreneur group that I lead. And that is the significance of making sure that your core values are in alignment with your what we call immutable laws, or what the rules of the road for you in business. It's so significant because your core values is the epitome of who you are. All right, so let's get into the 4 tendencies quiz, and let's talk about this a little bit. Okay, so the four tendencies, and if you haven't taken the quiz, you can always go back and take it, and then comment in this thread letting us know what your tendency was. But the purpose of the 4 tendencies was to describe how we respond to expectations. Now, whether we know it or not, whether we believe it or not, each and every day someone has expectations for us, right? And that we have expectations for ourselves, and others have expectations for us as well. And so each and every day we are in some sense obligated to fulfill the expectations of others. But the point of this particular quiz is to see whose expectations are you most likely to live up to first, right? And so there are two kinds of expectations that Gretchen talks about in this quiz. She talks about outer expectations, such as meeting work deadlines or observing traffic regulations, right? And so heeding to the laws, outer expectations, what other people see or feel or expect of us. And then there are inner expectations. Inner expectations such as quitting napping or keeping a New Year's resolution, okay? And so she has 4 types of tendencies that she talked about. The first one is the upholder. And the upholder says a lot of times, I do what others expect of me, and I do what I expect of myself as well. Okay, so the upholder is able to live up to the expectations of others and expectations for themselves. Then there's the questioner. The questioner says, I do what I think is best according to my judgment. If it doesn't make sense, I won't do it, right? So if it doesn't, so I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and if it's not making sense to me, if it doesn't resonate with my core values, if it doesn't feel good for me, I'm not going to do it. So it's got to make sense to me, okay? And so that's a questioner. An obliger. An obliger says, I do what I have to do. I don't want to let others down, but I may let myself down. And so the obliger is kind of a people pleaser, and oftentimes is always putting the expectations of others ahead of themselves. Okay? And then last is the rebel. I like the rebel. The rebel says, I do what I want in my own way. If you try to make me do something, even if I try to make myself do something, I'm less likely to do it. And so the rebel says, I'm going to do what I want to do at the end of the day. Okay? I'm just going to do it my way. And I'll worry about the consequences later. All right? So, with that stated, several of you have already shared where you were with the 4 tendencies. Okay? And so, I was the obliger. Look, Donna is laughing because Donna, you need to take this ASAP. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the obliger for just a second. All right, an obliger meets outer expectations, meaning outer. Donna says, "Come on, rebel." And so the obliger will meet outer expectations, but will oftentimes sell themselves short on inner expectations. And so, like Tyra and I, we oftentimes need accountability. We need accountability. And so, for me, when it comes to doing this challenge, I showed up, right? Why? Because you guys had expectations of me that I was going to fulfill what I said I was going to do for the challenge. So every morning this week, I've been up on time. I've gotten my day started. I have posted on time. Yesterday, y'all, I got so much done and I was so productive. I hadn't been that productive in several weeks just because I lost focus for a minute. But because I knew that as a leader, I have to make sure that I lead by example. That's what's necessary for me. So showing up here holds me accountable. Making sure that I fulfill the obligations and expectations that I say holds me accountable. So a lot of times for me, if I say I'm going to do something, then just take the test, Donna R. Martin. I don't know. Take the test, woman. Just take the test. Just take the test. I'm sure you probably could be too, but you're going to veer more towards one than the other for this particular quiz. So just take the test. But an obliger, as for like myself, I have to put deadlines on something, and I have to put a date on it, and I have to live up to that date. I'll share something really transparent. I have a conference that's coming up, or a retreat that's coming up, and when I started to think that I might have to change things or maneuver things, I got really uncomfortable because I am one who lives up to the expectations of others, and I immediately became a little unraveled and concerned about what other people might think if I had to change things around or what have you. And so that being said, I recognize that as an obliger that, I was holding myself accountable to the expectations of others and living up to the date that I set. So a lot of times that's what we have to do. So if you're an obliger, you're going to need accountability. So that means if you, let's say you value health and wellness and you want to lose weight, that means that you may have to hire a fitness trainer or a coach or a nutritionist or an accountability partner, right? So find someone that's going to hold you accountable and get in coaching if you need coaching, or get support if you need support to be able to fulfill the expectations that you put on yourself, right? You might need to team up with a friend who will be disappointed if you don't follow through. Consider yourself a role model. I'm telling you guys, being a coach and a leader has really helped me amp up my expectations and held me accountable. Okay, so if you are a obliger, get an accountability partner, or find some way to make sure that you're held accountable in everything that you do. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the upholder. Were there any upholders? I don't think I saw any upholders. I think I saw questioners, obligers, and we also have a rebel, or maybe two, in the group. Let's see. I'm scrolling down to see. Do we have any upholders in the group? Okay, I don't see any as of right now. Hey, Princess, how are you? Okay, so let's talk about the upholder. The upholder responds readily to outer and inner expectations. They wake up and think, what's on my schedule? What's on my to-do list for today? They want to know what's expected of them, and they meet those expectations. These people are performers. You're doers. You get it done. You get it done. They avoid making mistakes or letting people down, including themselves, right? And so you are resilient. You bounce back. You let nothing hold you back from being able to uphold the expectations of others and the expectations of yourselves. And so this is very befitting for a lot of people who can handle their business. Okay, so what do upholders need as far as strategy? Well, it says okay, so these are things that you guys can do as upholders. Schedule exercise for a specific time instead of fitting into your day at some point. Fitting it into day at some point, right? So this is giving the example. If you're trying to exercise more, schedule it. Why? Because when you schedule it, as Ina does, Ina schedules hers and she follows through. But if you schedule it, you're more likely to get it done because you uphold those expectations, okay? So a strategy of scheduling would be very beneficial to upholders. Keeping a chart, right? Do you know those soccer moms, or if y'all remember, what was the movie with Martin Lawrence? Big Mama 2, I think, or it might have been another one, but I think it was Big Mama 2, where he was doing this private investigation, and Big Mama got this nanny job, right? And so the mom had a distinct schedule, and she had it planned out. And so schedule, marking every time you exercise, or monitoring is very good for those of you who are upholders. These are strategies that you can use. And then the strategy of a clean slate, taking advantage of a big life change, starting fresh, starting new, start setting new habits. Okay, so these are strategies for upholders. All right, so for the questioners in the group, let's talk a little bit about you guys. And it says, questioners question all expectations, and they respond to an expectation only if they conclude that it makes sense. In essence, they meet only inner expectations. So if they have an inner conflict, if it's logical, they're motivated by logic, they're motivated by fairness, they're motivated by reason. So if it don't make money, it don't make sense, right? But if it doesn't make sense, they're not going to do it. And so a strategy for questioners is it's the strategy of distinctions. Okay, so if you were to consider exercising, this is just an example, you would design a habit very specifically to suit your particular character. Okay, so again, it's helpful to know what your core values are, because you're going to live up to it. Okay, consider exactly why and how a particular habit should be kept. So it has to be clear. You got to get clarity about it, right? So it's got to be clear. It's got to have, you got to have evidence. You got to have, and I get that about you now, Ina. You got to have evidence. It's got to make sense. It's got to be, you got to see that it's moving in the right direction. Okay. Get more information about your habits by wearing a pedometer and charting your experience. So strategy of monitoring. Okay. So monitoring is good. Okay. For those who are questioners. All right. And let's talk about that good old rebel. This is a rebel. A rebel, it says, they choose to act from a sense of choice and freedom. Rebels wake up and think, what do I want to do today? What do I want to do today? Rebels place a high value on authenticity and self-determination, and they bring an unshackled spirit to what they do. They bring an unshackled spirit. So that means they're not going to allow anybody to keep them shackled. They're not going to allow anybody to make them feel guilty or make them feel less than about any decisions that they make. All right. Hey, Stephanie. Ina says the same for my Sunday lives. Man, I do so much research first. Yes, and I get that, and that's good because your strategy, you live up to that. Okay, so monitoring, all of that's really good for you. Okay, so let's talk about strategy for the rebels. Strategy of clarity. Okay, so using the exercise thing again. Focus on why you want to exercise. What's your why? All right. And that stands out a lot for rebels. What's your why? What is your why? You know, you always think about what your why is. You know, how does this impact, other people? If it makes you feel energetic and alive and fun, do you love a challenge? What's your why, your reasoning for doing it? So that's clarity about your why is important strategy for you if you're a rebel. Consider how it allows you to be true to yourself, right? So the strategy of identity, whoever you are at this particular point, how is this going to work for you and who you are identifying at this particular moment, right? For Donna, I know Donna very well, and Donna is one who she values peace and she also values freedom, right? So anything that's gonna keep her from peace and freedom, she ain't with it, right? So and it's all about her identity. She doesn't like for anybody to try to take her identity or take who she is from her. And so she ain't changing it for nobody. So identity is a good strategy. And then the other one is strategy of other people. It means set you apart from what people usually do. Okay? If it's a way to set you apart, is it a way to make you feel different? Is it a way for you to feel like you're not conforming to the status quo? Is it a way for you to feel like is it a way for you to feel like you're being true to who you are? Then yeah, use that as a strategy. So Donna hasn't taken the quiz, but I think we know where she is. All right. So again, you guys, I hope that was fun. I hope that this brought a lot of awareness to you guys. And I want you guys to begin to apply the strategies that you were given. If you are a rebel, if you're an obliger, if you are an upholder, if you're a questioner, use those strategies and begin to think about how you can begin to utilize those strategies in what you do and in your everyday life. So if you feel stagnant, if you feel like you're unfocused or you're lacking focus, if you lack a time and attention. Hey Tammy, how are you? If you lack focus and being centered, then think about why that is. Think about what your life decisions have been and why you may have been rebelling or why you have been upholding. If you're a people pleaser and you're constantly trying to please others, now is the time, especially this week, to begin to think about how you can begin to give more love and acceptance to yourself. And we're actually going to talk more about love and acceptance and even self-compassion for ourselves on tomorrow. We're going to dig a little bit deeper into that. But that being said, I hope that this was an exercise that's going to bring you more awareness about where you are at this particular point with your core values, and lining up your core values and your belief systems with what you do, the decisions that you make for yourself, the opportunities that you pursue. You know, as I said before, the speaker this morning, who was an empowerment specialist, she talked a lot about how secrets can keep us stagnant. And she talked about, and Tammy, she really reminded me a lot of your platform and what you're doing, particularly with family. But she talked about how, you know, a lot of us have family secrets, or we have inner conflicts and secrets that we're holding within ourselves, and how that is really holding us back and keeping us hindered and stagnant from being who we have been called to be, because we're worried about what people are going to think. We're worried about rejection. We're worried about how if I got more status, whose expectations am I going to have to live up to? And so all of that was in direct alignment with this conversation today about being, our 4 tendencies. And so it was very helpful for me as a person who can sometimes be a people pleaser, not wanting to disappoint others, not wanting to let other people down. It was very helpful to me to be able to see myself in a different light, and to be able to say, hey, you know what? I am capable of walking in the authority of who God has called and created me to be. And I want each and every one of you to begin to believe the same exact thing for yourselves. And so as you move forward, think about how this information and how you can apply these strategies to your day-to-day life. Whatever it is that you have a desire to do, whether it is lose weight, if you value love and intimate relationships, if you want to be married, if you want to be healed from a divorce, if you went through a tough time with your divorce, if you value success or achievement, if you value adventure, right? I have Sasha. Sasha values adventure. She's one of the most adventurous women I know, right? And so I admire that about Sasha. She's not in here today, but I admire that about Sasha simply because I have a desire to be more adventurous. And one of the things that I told Sasha was, I said, Sasha, I myself, what you have is needed, because there are many of us who aren't adventurous, who are afraid to just live freely and try different things out of fear. And so we really need to know, how do we break through the barriers of fear and live and just enjoy the experience and put ourselves out there. And so so many of us need that. So whatever it is that you value, whatever it is that your core values are, let's make sure that what we do in our daily lives measures up to that. And the way that you can do that is by going back to the strategies that was listed in the 4 tendencies and begin to apply those strategies to your life. So now I recognize why I need accountability, but I also recognize that what's going to make me more productive is to make sure that I am setting goals, that I am making sure that I'm putting myself in leadership positions, because I know that that's important to me. And so I'm going to be more successful and follow through when I do that. The other part of that is I'm also learning that I'm going to need to make sure that I begin to pray and seek God more to help me see myself through His eyes. And so I've learned from this experience. I'm so thankful that you guys are on the journey with me. I'm thankful that this was helpful. Deborah says this was very informative. Thank you. Ina says this was very good information. Thank you. So this is good. It just brings awareness to where we are and where we want to be. So tomorrow, look for the email, and we're gonna get into self compassion, and we're gonna learn to forgive ourselves a little bit more and to be more compassionate to ourselves. Okay. So I love you guys. Have a fantastic day. Enjoy the rest of your day, and let's apply these strategies to our lives so that we can be our best selves. Okay. Love you. See ya. Bye bye.